Hello, all you hardcores out there. How are you doing? It's Russ here from Poker's Corner, biggest gob in sport. Welcome to part two. It's been top. 2 seconds. Hello, Julian. Just a quick one. I've just been told that Ray Doyle, trainer of Terry Harper, has just left Steffi Bully's gym in Dennerby. Just left.
Right. I think I might have met Ray Doyle just once. I used to go over to Steffi's with Sykes and James Ancliffe and a couple of other kids. I think Josh might have gone over.
Nice kid.
I think I met him once. I think he was a nice kid. I'm being rude if I don't fully remember the meeting, but you're over there sparring out, you're doing your thing. And I think the McDonald's was sparring our lads, and I think Andy Townend were there. But I think I met Ray. I know Ismail Khan and Rash Khan, who I used to work with. They've met Ray a few times. Said he was a nice guy.
Yeah, so I wonder who Terry's going to be trained by now then. Well,
people move around in boxing, don't they?
Yeah.
One thing, Russell. Sorry. One thing, Russell, as well. For your guys, we don't just talk about Conor Benn, do we? We're going to do a top 20 soon, mate, aren't we? You and I.
Yeah. Oh, we've got a top 20 British fighters. If anybody wants to send them in, top 20 British fighters going back the last 50 years, and your top 20 British fighters who never won a world title or never got to fight for a world title. What's your top 20? Because there's some kids who are fantastic that didn't even get the chance to fight for a world title because they weren't arse lickers. Not that all world champions are arse lickers, but the way it's going at the moment. Which brings me to Eddie Hill's bitter fluff, Sky Nicholson. She's been given a WBC world title by email after 9 fights and 1 stoppage. What is all that?
I hate saying this. I called this a while ago, didn't I, when she was fighting for the interim belt. I said, I'm telling you what's coming. When I'm saying this to you, I'm just saying generally, because we both called it. I'm not just saying that we actually called it. We said, at some point, Serrano, this will be a conversation which says, look, Serrano, for whatever reason, is going to vacate. Now she's done it for women's rights, apparently. And Sky now has got the green belt.
I'll step aside money being handed out because I'm not hearing Serrano or Ludabella screaming blue murder in background. Well, she did vacate.
If we're conspiracy theorists, if we talk nonsense, as I've said this so many times, how can we call all this stuff before it happens?
Because we study the game, don't we, kid?
It's not hard. Yeah, it's as I've said countless times, you can always predict bad behavior, can't you? You can always predict corruption. I'm not saying it's corruption before anybody jumps down my neck, but you remember when we were talking about women's boxing a few months ago, and I think Sky Nicholson might have been one of the subjects. I can't remember, but basically,
I know what video you're on about. It's the Chantel. No, what's she called now? Two women, one ranked 8 and one Shannon Courtney.
Yeah,
and girl fought. Was it Ebony Bridges? Did they fight for a belt or something? A vacant belt?
Yeah, and I think there was also another title fight on a Matchroom show. And basically, what I did was I highlighted the fact that in the top 10, there were some really fearsome women with some really great records who have never been given world title shots. And it was like, it just proves, doesn't it, that boxing is, and I'm going to say something now, and I'm not trying to be offensive, but boxing's a popularity sport. We've known that. There's always been elements of that, but we used to fundamentally get the best fighter would be the world champion. The top contenders would be the best contenders, not just who was the most popular on social media. Now, the thing is as I said, you've got all these South Americans and these Eastern European women who are out there who have got really formidable records, beating formidable opposition. There was one woman whose name I forgot, I mentioned to you, says she's not been given a title shot. She's not in an eliminator against Sky Nicholson. And I think she was something like about 20-odd and 3, and she'd beaten 5 or 6 girls who were unbeaten. You know, she had a real formidable record. And I asked the question, I wonder if this girl's been asked if she wants to fight for a vacant title. Like I said, when we had Shannon Courtney and Ebony Bridges and number 8 and number 9 at bantamweight, but yet number 1 to 8 at that time didn't get offered a world title shot, did they? So it's become a popularity contest. And Sky Nicholson, first of all, seems a really nice, decent, bright, beautiful young lady inside and out. We're not hating the player, we're hating the game. But I'm just wondering if Sky Nicholson wasn't the most, if she didn't look like she looked, and if she didn't communicate and speak like she does, because she's really well spoken and she's really articulate when you listen to her talk about boxing, would she have got a world title shot on such a profile just based on her accomplishments?
No, she won't, because she can't punch. She's from Australia, so it's a lot of messing about to get her over to Europe and America with expense, like planes, different time zones, and all that. It's a bit of a nightmare, but she's landed on her feet, and obviously Eddie Hearn's left his wife for her, so she must be good at summer.
I mean, I don't know about that side of things. I genuinely don't, but it's just rotten, isn't it? You gotta feel for those female boxers out there, like I've said, who are really dedicated, who are really hardworking, probably boxing for peanuts. You know, some of these South American names I gave you last time, I've got them written down somewhere. Boxing for, I don't know if they're here or not, but boxing for absolute peanuts in obscure little, honestly, some of them I watched videos of them to see if they'd be worthy of fighting for world titles, and some of them were really good fighters, and they were fighting in like leisure centres in Belarus and things, and I just thought, it's cruel, isn't it, boxing? You know, but the thing is you can get the best looking people, you can get the beautiful Essex people, and you can get all these people in designer labels and with high profiles and Instagram followers, etc., etc. You can get all those people, but ultimately, when it comes down to the fight, you're not seeing great fights, are you? Because you're not seeing the elite fighting the elite. You're just seeing a popularity contest, and I don't know. It just I struggle. I've got 4 kids, and you know what I'm like. I struggle with inequality. I just do, and I just hate that type of thing. I hate that superficial thing. And someone will turn around and say, "What you got in for Sky Nicholson for?" Well, I haven't. And they'll also turn around and say, "She's really dedicated. You know, she was in the Olympics, or she did this, she did that." But ultimately,
She didn't medal in Olympics.
I was just going to say she did. She was in the Olympics. She didn't medal, but ultimately, she's not that great. She's got a decent style. She's got no power whatsoever. Maybe she needs to change where she eats her omelets, perhaps. I don't know, but she's got no power whatsoever. And she's fencing. And I think the girl that they dragged up for last time, I think she'd won winning 300 years or something. And you're just giving world titles out like they're just like speeding tickets out there. You're just giving them out like, there you go, there you go, there you go, that's for you. And it's just devaluing boxing. But she's a beautiful young girl. She's well spoken. It's just life, isn't it? Life's an uneven playing field.
She looks the part, doesn't she?
Just gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. But she's nice. She's decent, isn't she? You listen to her. She's modest. She doesn't. She's not Ebony Bridges, is she?
Oh God, no, she's totally opposite. I mean, that's why Eddie's not keen on her now, isn't it, Bridges? You know.
Look, it sounds offensive, but you know, if my son was fortunate enough to bring, and I'm not just talking superficial looks, if either of my sons were
Don't do it,
fortunate
Jules.
enough,
Don't do it.
no, but you know what I'm going to say? I'd be proud of him, mate. I'd be like, it'd be like, you've met a lovely girl. She's gorgeous inside and out. She's talented. She's hardworking. She ticks every box, doesn't she? But that doesn't make her the best featherweight in the world, does it?
No, it don't, mate. It don't. But she's going to get a free run now, so you'd expect a rota like Terry Harper's.
Oh,
Non-punch.
can you imagine? Can you imagine who they're going to line up? Can you imagine who they're going to line up for? Honestly.
Oh God, it'd be school dinner ladies from Dennerby. Madness. Oh, and her career is 9-0, 1 KO. I mean, I don't know what is all that about.
It wasn't a KO though, was it? I think she hit the girl. It was 10-2s. And after 9.5 rounds or 8.5 rounds, she'd hit the girl about 6,000 times, never really hurt her. And I think someone somewhere thought, come on, let's give her a KO on the old record and stop the fight, didn't they? It's, yeah.
Yeah, it's not good. This Saudi thing, there's a lot of people behind the scenes saying that they're going to take over, and this is just the beginning. What do you make of that, Julian? How do you see them taking over?
It's a law for the rich, isn't it? I think what we'll get is we'll get the elite events, the elite fighters, the big names spending a lot of time in Saudi over the next few years, and that might become the home of like big time boxing, and we'll all be left with the crumbs, won't we? In the UK, if you got a low profile, you don't get on social media, you don't look like Sky Nicholson, you're not a heavyweight, you might really struggle, might you, in the UK? And we'll be left with the dross, won't we? It's a little bit like, I know it's a different organisation, but you mentioned it before. It was when Dart split, didn't it? Was it the BDO initially, or they kept it at the lakeside, didn't they?
Yeah.
The Dart split, and then all the big names went over, didn't they? They went over to Sky, Phil Taylor, and all those guys went over to Sky. And then the guys who were left on the BBC initially in the day were, like you just said, there were bin men, weren't there? There were bin men, there were factory workers whose averages were pretty poor. And all the successful big name ones went over to Sky, and then they effectively stole the sport, didn't they? And that's what could likely happen with Saudi. You'll just get these big events 4 to 6 times a year. They'll be the ones where they'll start to charge us even more. They get the big names on there, and we all want to see these big names, let's be honest. But what happens is you get shows like Eddie put out, and we still get some good shows, by the way, but then you get shows like Eddie put out a few months ago, and there was a show in Newcastle and various things. And unfortunately, they're pretty poor affairs, aren't they? Even if there's decent fighters on there, you can see the arenas just are not filling up these days, either in the UK. And it's law for the rich, mate.
Suing people. A lot of people, they're going to sue, they're going to do this, they're going to do that. Eddie was suing Jake Paul, but that's not happening now, is it? It's all gone quiet, hasn't it?
Eddie was suing Jake Paul. Everybody's suing everybody. Conor Ben was suing
Board.
the board. He was suing everyone in the world. He hasn't sued any top professional fighters who did call him a drug cheat, though. Were pretty handy guys. He's not sued them. But everybody's suing everybody, and they just talk rubbish because no one ever, or very, very few people ever go to court, do they? And it's just, they're just trying to sound big, aren't they? That's all they are. They're just trying to sound big.
Will Conor Ben sue Anthony Fowler? He's wealthy. Will he sue him for calling him a drug cheat?
Anthony Fowler said the same as me and you. It's his opinion.
Liam Smith.
Liam Smith. It's their opinion. They're entitled to an opinion, and theirs is an informed opinion. And Liam Smith and Anthony Fowler are both tested clean all the way through their careers, all the way through from being amateurs. In Fowler's case, it was GB. All the fights they've had, they all tested clean, and in their opinion, he's dirty. In their opinion, he's taken performance-enhancing drugs, and that's my opinion. And no one's told us anything to the opposite of that. So, how can you sue them? Where do you start? Because there must be 100,000 people on social media who share that view. What do you do? Sue everybody? What you do is you don't, back on the Conor Ben thing, you don't sue people. You go out, prove your innocence, and then you just put a little post up, nice little post, what says, there you go, innocent, clean. Although, to be honest, Conor's already done that, hasn't he? He's already said he's been cleared by the WBC. He's already put a post up saying he's innocent. He's been cleared.
Yeah. Liam Smith's a free agent now. He's not with Boxer, and he's in talks with Matchroom. Billy Joe's a Matchroom fighter. He's saying he wants to fight Billy Joe at 168. But he'll fight anybody from 154 to 168. He's in his mid-30s, coming off a knockout. Do you think Beefy just wants one more payday?
Yeah, I mean, he's got beautiful family, beautiful house, good lifestyle. Liam Smith's hugely respected in boxing. You know, like some people are accomplished that not really respected or loved. Liam Smith, I think, is everybody's favourite of the four Smith brothers. He's massively respected in boxing by fighters and people alike. And he'll be just viewing this as, look, it's like I said with Tony Bellew, it's a short career, shortish career, 10, 15 year or whatever in the pros. And if he can get a fight, let's say, for example, if they did the Billy Joe Saunders fight, I personally don't care for it too much, but people would want to see it. They're both big names, and it's not a fight. It would be a huge underdog in that fight because no one knows what Billy Joe's got left. So they're all looking for pension fights, aren't they? I've got no issue with fighters looking for pension fights, but I have an issue that it's being sold on a pay-per-view basis that this is an elite fight, because it wouldn't be, would it? It's like Liam Smith against Eubank Jr., both those fights. It's not a world level fight as far as I'm concerned. It's a domestic level stroke European level fight.
Going through Liam Smith's CV, he's got a win over Eubank Jr., he's got a win over Jesse Vargas. There were no world title belts online, but Eubanks had an IBO, Vargas had a WBO, did he? A vacant WBO. Do you think Liam Smith's career is a bit threadbare to say he's just had 2 pay-per-view and is now saying that he's a pay-per-view fighter? He's just sold out 2 pay-per-views, even though
I don't think it's pay-per-view. I mean, Jesse Vargas was really not. It was not the fighter that we remember, was he?
No.
And it was. There's no way. What was that fight at middleweight?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Jesse Vargas at middleweight, really. So look, it's a name we all know. It's a name who 5 years ago was flying high, but that's not a great win. I have to say, in spite of having reasonable statistics, the guy who Frank Warren got Liam Smith his WBO middleweight title win, I forget the American's name. He was absolutely dreadful, wasn't he? That was as poor a fighter putting for a world title.
154, that Vargas.
154, but the guy who Liam Smith beat, whose name escapes me, he was absolutely terrible, wasn't he? I don't know. He's been a good fighter. He's been in there with the likes of Canelo Alvarez. I've always felt he was somewhat limited at world level, and people again will argue. So we talk about world level, he's a former world champion, but as you know, and we've just talked about with Sky Nicholson, you can get world title belts and not be an elite fighter. A lot of people struggle with that concept. But was Liam Smith ever a top 5 fighter in any weight division he's boxed in?
No.
I don't think he was.
At the moment, Liam Smith's ranked number 2 in the middleweight division on BoxRec. Chris Eubank Jr. number 1, Charlo number 3, and then the rest of them. God, if you listen, number 4 is Nur Sultanov. Number 5 is Al Makudali. Number 6 is Adames. Number 7, Austin Williams. Then you've got Elijah Garcia, Itanoza Oliha, and number 10, Vincenzo Gultieri. They're like that. That lot. Is the middleweight division now as poor as it ever been? And will marvelous Marvin Hagler be turning in his grave?
Well, if you go back to, as you started saying that, I almost started thinking about Marvin Hagler, Tony Simpson.
I know you would be.
Yeah, Hagler, Simpson, Wilfred Cyprian, Thomas Earns, guys like, Juan Roldan, Julio Bell. You just go on and on, Mustafa Ramshaw, and on and on and on and on. Dwight Davison. The middleweight division in the 80s was, it was solid, wasn't it? It was just absolutely solid. And that's not rose-tinted glasses. It really was. And a lot of those guys fought each other as well. Light middleweight was just fantastic division as well, and as was light heavyweight. And you just listed names there. I'm sure some of those guys are pretty competent fighters, but they're not getting me excited, and they're not names I really know. I've heard of one or two of them. I think it's a weak division, and I use my eyes. And when I watch the Liam Smith Eubank, both of those fights, whether this upsets people or not, or whether I'm stuck in an era or not, I don't see world class, real world. When I say real world class, I don't see real world class. I've said to you before, haven't I? My definition of world class, a guy who's world class is someone who can compete at world class, and on any good night could maybe beat anybody in the division, give or take, perhaps number one or number two. That's my definition of world class. And when I see Eubank Jr., for example, he's never really truly exhibited world class skills for me. So I don't think Liam Smith has, but that's just my opinion. Would Liam Smith have beaten Tony Simpson?
No.
No. And that's not disrespecting. Would he have beaten Bomber Graham?
No.
Would he have beaten Nigel Benn? Would he have beaten Chris Eubank? Would he have beaten Steve Collins?
No. Would he have beaten Ryan Rhodes? No. None of them are.
So you see where we're coming from, don't you? It's not a hate thing. He's massively successful boxing family, but we're just being realistic and saying the things that that needs saying. For me, you look at fighters who have won world titles, and you look at John H. Stracey, for example, who beat the great Jose Napoles. Lloyd Dunnigan beat the magnificent Don Curry, and Tony Simpson went on to fight the great Marvin Hagler. You look at those guys, and then you say you list off these other people, and then you look at Sky Nicholson, who we just talked about, and you say, who did Sky Nicholson beat for a world title? Well, first of all, she beat someone who was awful. Then it was an interim. Then she got elevated to the WBC proper champion by email. You see where I'm going with this one? This is the mess that boxing's got itself in for. I know I'm an old fuddy-duddy, but boxing's got itself into a real mess by having these multiple world champions. At least when we do watch Fury and Usyk, if that fight happens, at least we can say we're watching the two premier heavyweights in the world, that is a great thing. So that's a positive to take from it. But these Chris Eubank Jr., Liam Smith, Billy Joe Saunders fights against the elite fighters, we know what happens, and we see what happens, don't we? We saw what happens with Eubank against Groves.
Yeah.
Against Billy Joe. We saw what happened then when Billy Joe and Liam Smith, when they both fought the great Canelo Alvarez, didn't we?
Oh, we've seen it, didn't we?
So we see what happens before our very eyes. That doesn't mean they're not good fighters. It just means they're not. It means in today's landscape, you can be the world champion, and there might still be 5 fighters out there who are a lot better than you are.
Okay. How do you see Callum Smith at inactive 18-month against Beterbiev next month?
Well, I'm assuming the fight is still going to happen. And it goes back to what I've said. When Callum Smith fought Canelo Alvarez, he got absolutely wrecked. He'd been inactive. And now he's going into this massive fight again against Beterbiev, inactive, and he's going to get wrecked again.
Yeah.
No one learns from this stuff about being in the gym and being active and staying sharp and having tool sharpeners and having competitive fights. No one learns from this stuff. I mean, we've got Anthony Yard doing the same thing, haven't we? It's just, why are they not fighting like the mid-ranked contenders, the guys
from advisors behind them?
They're all sat waiting for title fights against these big names, aren't they? Because you can get 300 grand in a high risk fight, what's low value, and get turned over. or you can wait like Smith's waiting, Callum Smith's waiting. You can fight Beterbiev, and we know he's no spring chicken himself, but you can fight him. And what will he be getting for this fight? 1.5?
No, he's getting a lot less than that. They didn't win purse, but Eddie lost the purse.
Right, okay, I wasn't sure, but he's
I think
still going to get
like 700-800 grand, something like that.
It's his payoff fight, isn't it? It's not a massive pension fight, it's a pension fight ultimately.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, Kell Brook's come out today and he said that, and I quote, "I'm the biggest name out of Ben and Eubank and myself, and if the fight was announced now and I were fighting one of them, it'd sell out, or in fact either of them. But if I were fighting Ben, I'd definitely get out of my silk pajamas for that one and train hard. But I don't really know what's happening with Connor and Chris Eubank Jr. at the moment. But he's out there in Fuerteventura training. Well, I heard he was backup guy for him. He's been paid to go out there and he's backup guy."
It's the same thing, isn't it? You Kell Brook, you might be nearly 38, you might be almost 2 years since you beat Amir Khan, and shot to bits then. Absolutely shot to bits.
You'd make Kell a favourite, wouldn't you?
I'd make him a. I hate to put fighters off the sofa in with
2 year out of thing.
But then again, he hasn't had that much time in the ring, Conor Ben himself, has he? So, but he's got youth on his side. What I don't, everyone will always do what's best for themselves, and I get it. If Kell Brook can hold them to ransom, you're not going to do the Eubank fight now. And the next best thing out there, if he can hold them to ransom for 4 or 5 million, first of all, he's going to do that because it's a real pension fight. He got his pension fight with Khan, but this is a double, triple security pension fight. And second of all, he's a fighter, isn't he? And he'll think he can beat Conor Ben. Fighters always think they can beat the young kids. Boxers are the first to know when they haven't got any more, but the last to admit it. And I don't think he's any different. And being honest, I don't know if Kell Brook could fight at that pace, if I'm being completely honest. I thought Amir Khan was shot to bits. I thought Khan was such an easy fight for Brook. Thought at the time Brook would beat him. I don't know. I don't want to see Kell Brook fight Conor Ben. I'll tell you why.
Why?
Not because Kell Brook's he's not an old man, but Kell Brook's really in decline. He's been in decline for a few years, because I couldn't stand the gloating of Conor Ben if he beat him. Couldn't stand it. He's just going in old people's homes and just like taking scalps, isn't he? And I couldn't stand the gloating. I want to see Conor Ben fight Boots Ennis, Martin McKinson, Paddy O'Donovan, Virgil Ortiz. That's who I want to see Conor Ben fight. I'm not interested in seeing him fight anybody else.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Because Kell's probably bored, isn't it? Do you think?
Kell will be bored. Like he said himself, didn't he? He says, I saw him in an interview from Fuerteventura. I like Kell Brook, and I saw him saying, I dropped my girls off, and he was sort of trying to convince us how busy he stays by saying, I dropped my kids off at dancing and my kids off at sport and swimming and whatnot have you. Listen, that doesn't take much time up, does it? A little bit of driving around. He's bored, mate. It's what fighters do. He probably hasn't got the mental capacity, and that's not intelligence. He's a smart guy. He probably hasn't got the mental capacity and patience to be a coach, to be a real hands-on coach. Finding it hard to get away from boxing. And I think ultimately when Kell Brook really feels alive is when he's in an actual training camp. And I think he misses it. But what do you do, Russell? Box forever? Carry on forever?
Yeah, it's madness, isn't it? Absolute madness.
History has always shown, though, hasn't it? It's nothing new, is it? Fighters will either come back for money reasons or they'll come back just for ego reasons. And there's no other drivers apart from those two drivers, money and ego. And it's sad, and that's why we've seen since time began, since Marcus of Queensberry and the gloved era, etc. and it's everything's been documented. We've just seen fighters come back and come back and come back, and generally fighters leave the ring on the back, don't they?
Yeah. Sam Jones fighter Jack Catterall. Sam were going to do wonders for him when he got working with him. He's fighting Richardson Hitchens next. What happened to all these big fights for Jack Catterall? Where are they?
Well, I'm guessing we haven't got the rematch with Josh Taylor. That's I don't know if anybody wants to see that, by the way, but maybe he wants to put that straight on the record.
Richardson
Jack Catterall is a big light welterweight, isn't he? He's a light welterweight.
Yeah.
Why don't he could fight Conor Benn?
Yeah, could step up and fight Conor Benn, couldn't he? They're working with Matchroom. Why not fight Ben at 147?
Conor Benn was a 140-pounder.
Eddie's mate, Sam.
Do the fight. There you go.
In-house fight.
We've got an in-house fight. We've found an opponent for Conor Benn. There you go.
Yeah, I just wonder what you thought about that, mate.
£7 difference. But Catterall's a very talented fighter. He's not the most exciting. He'll never take more risks than he needs to. But he's a solid fighter. But he seemed to be hovering around waiting for a world title for years, didn't he, before he fought Josh Taylor? And then he obviously was bad decision against Josh Taylor, horrendous. And now he just seems to be like treading water again, doesn't he? He's also just wait for another big fight. Well, maybe Sam Jones should deliver one for him, because Linares is not a big fight. That's just a guy that pulled from the retirement home. So Catterall's a good fighter. Very, very good base, solid.
Richardson Hitchens, have you heard of him?
No. And that's not to say he's not a decent fighter. I just don't follow it. I know the sort of top feud fighters in most divisions, and those are the fighters I want to see. I'd like to see Jack Catterall fight, anyone like that. Virgil Ortiz, Conor Benn, move up to welterweight. He's been a light welterweight for some time now as Catterall, hasn't he? Just move up. This is traditionally what boxers do, isn't it? Yeah. If there aren't big fights in a certain division, they just jump to the next division and pick out those big opponents.
Well, this guy's
if Usyk can move to heavyweight with his brilliant southpaw skills and cause absolute terrors against kids 2 stone area, Jack Catterall can move up £7.
Yeah, because Jack Catterall, Usyk moved up all that weight, didn't he, from cruiser? But Jack Catterall apparently schooled an undisputed welterweight. Light welterweight. So why can't he move to welter? It's only £7.
£7. It's not great, is it? I mean, fighters have been moving up through history, haven't they? Bigger jumps than that.
Well, this guy's 17 Julian.
Is what, Russell?
17-0, 7 by way of this Hitchens guy, young 26-year-old.
So he's no power and probably very safe fight, I would have thought. If you look under the microscope of his record, it's probably not that good.
Well, he's just beaten Joseph Cepeda.
Yeah, Cepeda was decent, wasn't he, at one point? But I think he's a southpaw, wasn't he? I think Catterall deserves a big world title fight now. I do, because what happened to him was shocking. But how long ago was that fight now with Josh Taylor?
It's a long time ago now, isn't it? That now
it's too long for that. That kid shouldn't be having to wait for a big, meaningful fight now. I mean, he was inactive for a year, wasn't it, before his last fight or two? Nothing had happened. Just waiting around for a Josh Taylor rematch. Keep busy, keep fighting. The rematch comes, it comes. If it doesn't, Anthony Joshua has just figured that one out, hasn't he? Stay busy. Finally, the penny's dropped. Stay busy. Why are these fighters not staying busy?
Well, the money's not there for Joshua now, according to Eddie. So they're saying, we're going to get you knockovers and keep you busy, but you'll still get paid a decent bit. But Eddie will be having something out of the job because he's still keeping him out there, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They'll definitely be having something out of it. There'll be a decent payday for the Wallin fight. I don't think it's the risk that most people see. A lot of people leaning towards Wallin or saying it's a 51-49 fight. I don't see it as being that, but Then again, I don't study Otto Walling close enough to care. But you know, we just want to see Joshua in an exciting fight, don't we? And I think that Deontay Wilder ticks that box. Wilder's now talking about fighting in Ghana in some kind of hybrid rule match. It's all going from that competitive sport towards this massive entertainment business, isn't it? That's what's happening with boxing.
It's crept upon us now, but it's now here.
It's here now to the point that people no longer roll their eyes and stand, you know, in amazement, saying, "Wow, what's going on with this? This is, you know, this outcry initially of Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather, this massive outcry. Then people saw the numbers and the money it generated, and it's standard now. I mean, I'm not knocking Tommy Fury, but you never hear Tommy Fury now talk about actual being an active professional fighter who's chasing championships, do you?
You don't need to, because it's the norm now, and they've even turned our heads because we're even going, yeah, Brook against Eubank.
Yeah.
And Brook against Ben. Oh God, because we're starved of action.
Yeah, we're starved of action, and this is what I continually say about heavyweight boxing. People keep saying, "Oh, you're getting all these massive fights now. What's wrong with you, Jules? What's wrong with you, Russell?" But we haven't had a fight what we want, have we? There's a difference, isn't there? There's a, you know, you can put Parker in against Wilder, for example. Yeah, no one's been screaming for Parker and Wilder for the past 5 years, have they?
No.
Not even Parker. Not even Joseph Parker's been screaming for that fight. Now we've got Anthony Joshua against Wally. No one's been screaming for that fight. You know, nobody was screaming for Fury and Ngannou. We were just told it was a crossroads fight. And no one was really screaming for Joyce and Zhang. And nobody was screaming for those fights. We're screaming for the fights that we want, that matter. Usyk and Fury, before someone shuts me up, some fanatical Fury fanboy shuts me up and says the fighting in February. That's not happened yet. Let's wait and see what happens there. We've not had AJ against Wilder. Even Wilder was talking about fighting John Ruiz. Now, that would have been an half-decent fight. We're not having Ruiz and AJ 3. We're not having sexy fights, are we? We're just having big names against people we've heard of. But style-wise, they're not great fights, are they?
No, they're not, mate. Okie dokie. Well, listen, thanks for coming on, mate. Hope you're well.
I'm going to try and stand up now, mate. Now I want to hang up, but some more painkillers, buddy. I'll take the dog for the walk. I look like I'm crippled as I'm bending over, but good to chat as always, mate. Good to see you recently, and you take care.
All right, you take care, pal. Cheers,
Cheers,
mate.
Russell. Bye, mate.
Thanks for liking and subscribing and leaving a comment. Right, now on to Aaron. Aaron, is it? Making his debut, 19-year-old. So be nice to him in comment section, all you savages. All right. Go on, pop, bang. Peace out. Thanks for liking and subscribing and leaving a comment. And if you want to chat knackers on here and you're a license holder, boxer, trainer, cutman, promoter, manager, consultant, advisor, wherever you are, you chat shit when the ice breaks, I'll be waiting. Pop, bang.